Alright. Hey guys, BT here again. Now getting into the more important stuff. And that today is going to be actually putting paint on this thing now. It's all dried up and got a nice even coat of this black on it. Now you notice I didn't paint the underside. That's not because I forgot or anything. That's actually a specific reason for that. We'll get into that later when we actually get into painting that. But today we're just going to start putting base coat on to all the major parts and doing the metallics and for the most part the blues. So super simple. What we got here is, and this is going to be done in all this type of paints too. All this stuff has been done in this type of paint, so you don't have to worry about buying specific model colors. Like we have several companies that do specific model colors, like Vallejo. We got Army Painter. We have GW. This is a Citadel wash from GW. We have, I think we have Reaper miniature paints. Tons of different paints. I just go straight Walmart brand folk art, son. And this stuff works good. You just got to learn how to work with it. You have to make it work with you. It's a little bit different when you paint with stuff like GW or Vallejo. Vallejo is really good stuff, but I don't like it. It's expensive. You get like a bottle about that big for like $4, and so I'm not down with that. I'm not down with that. I don't know about y'all's, but I'm not down with that. So this is just a pure blue. There's not any whites in it really. There's not any different colors. Not a dark blue. It's just a pure blue. A highlight color is going to be a slightly lighter blue in comparison. So we got these two here. You can see them better just sitting next to each other. So you got base color, highlight color. We're probably not going to get into highlighting, but this is, in case you're wondering, is the highlight color. And then this is the bright line color. And this is more of like a super bright light blue. This is almost like a teal, or like a, I think a teal is like the color is. But anyways, I'm just going to jump right into this. Get myself a base coat brush. Something moderately wide. Be covering a lot of area, and most people will tell you not to paint directly from the pot, and the pot would be this cap, or directly from here. You want to put it into a palette and thin it down and stuff first. I have a little bit of a different approach to that, and it's my personal preference. I enjoy the way I do things, so to be honest, that's how I do it. I just quite literally do my own thing. So what we're gonna do is just start on the lower bits. You're just going to want to lay down your base coat color and get it straight up to this shit. You know what, I'm going to just pan this color, or pan this focus to set there. And you're just going to want to lay this everywhere that you have blue on the model. Now, I realized that yesterday before I started painting, I thought to myself, bollocks, I didn't think to myself, bollocks, I put wrong spot of paint there. I thought to myself that while I'm painting, because there is quite a lot of painting on this, any model, but on this one specifically, because it's got, as I was looking at it, it's got several different features, so it's going to take a little bit longer than usual to paint this up than something else. Cygnar stuff tends to have a lot of different areas for color. I was thinking earlier, as I was saying though, about what to actually sit here and talk about, because I'm not going to need to be doing instruction the entire time I'm doing this. So I came up with a list of things, the list is over here to my side too, of what to actually talk about while I'm doing this. Now, the first and most interesting thing I came up with is a brief introduction, and by brief I mean 7-hour long chopped up version, a brief introduction on what War Machine actually is, in case anybody was curious. And I'm sure somebody was curious and I just haven't gone into it. Because all you have to do in this process is just grab some paint, dip it in some water, and that's what I dip it like once or twice in the water, and then just go at it. And the fluidity of the paint, especially this paint, is really easy to predict. So, not a whole lot of effort going into this. But anyways, basic introduction to War Machine. How does Templar do that? Well, it's really easy actually. War Machine takes place in a realm called the Iron Kingdoms. Now, the Iron Kingdoms is a collection of nations that over a few centuries has developed what is called the Cortex. Now, the Cortex is an artificial brain that can be used to control a variety of different things. It's not something like, you don't put them in cars or something. It's just a an artificial brain that can be used in, obviously, warjacks, because that's what controls a warjack. You can put it in aircraft, because they have balloon type aircraft. You can put it in other weapon systems, but mostly things that are not used for civilian use. That happened probably around maybe 600 years before the actual current timeline. So the steampunk engine thing has been around for 600 years approximately. And if anybody knows War Machine fluff better than me, feel free to comment if I get something wrong. I'm pretty sure nobody on this channel does, but just in case, feel free. Anywho. So you have maybe about 15 main factions in War Machine. Not all of them are playable, but most of them are represented somehow in the game, through a model or through a rule or through a character. Now, the faction that I play, mainly at least, is Cygnar. These blue guys here. Now, oops, shaking everything. Now they have a separate faction that's closely based upon them. They were actually one nation at one point, called the Protectorate of Menoth. Protectorate of Menoth, around 400 years ago, I think, decided they were going to go off and do their own thing because Cygnar wasn't properly worshipping their god. And so you have, so far you have Protectorate of Menoth and you have Cygnar. To the north of Cygnar, and Protectorate is to the south of Cygnar, to the north of Cygnar, you have a nation called Cador. Cador is the stereotypical Russians in the series. They are in a nation that is very cold, is full of wildlife, scary wildlife, and is, I want to say, more of a foresty, mountainy terrain. Is based in a foresty, mountainy terrain, so it's pretty close to what really Russia is. They have a really heavily influenced Russian design. Like most of their warjacks are big dumb asshole warjacks. They don't really shoot. They don't really do anything besides smash people's faces. They're heavy. They're heavily armored. They have very slow movement speed. Stereotypical badass Russian people, pretty much. And to the west of Cygnar, you have oopsie, put paint somewhere where I didn't want to put paint. You have what's called, I think it's Ilel, I think you're pronouncing right, Ilel, or it might be Rule. Anywho, you have a separate nation also. So that separate nation to the west also is at war with Cygnar, off and on. All these nations are at any given time at war with each other. Once in a while there will be 2, 3 years, 5 years of peace. Especially Cygnar and Cador. They have border wars all the time. And very rarely is one faction not actually beating another faction to the ground. So Cador is the Russian guys. Rule, or Rahul, however you want to pronounce it. I think it's just Rule. It's R-H-U-L. Is a nation of dwarves. And it's stereotypical dwarves, just like Lord of the Rings. And they really don't have a big gameplay aspect. They're pretty much, if anything, represented in the Mercenaries faction of War Machine, which is a separate faction altogether. They don't have a lot going for them. They have a couple of really good commanders, but in the fluff they're not very represented either. They don't have too much representation in the fluff either. So that essentially is everything to the east, or the west, excuse me. Everything to the east gets a little bit more interesting. To the east we have the Empire of Crix. Now the Crix people are the metaphorical scary bastard assholes of the entire realm. The bad guys, if you want to call them that, the bad guys. They are undead necromancers, for the majority of them actually. Most of them are undead necromancers. Now, they sprung up a couple hundred years ago. They used to be just coastal pirates. They used to be kind of a nuisance to Cygnar. They weren't paid too much attention until about 150 years ago, 200 years ago, when they started to amass on the shores and expand their raiding parties to more inland. I think my phone's ringing. It is ringing. I don't want to play Minecraft. Go away, best friend. Anyway, so Cricks are the bad guys, essentially. They're the metaphorical bad guys. They came up from a guy called, I think his name was, it's like Drag or something or other. I can't remember his name, but he was a dragon lord. After dragons died out in the Iron Kingdoms, he was like the last dragon. And he was the, also, metaphorical, badass, scary dragon that nobody liked. And after dragons died out, he flew his way over to an island. I don't remember what the island is actually called, but it's where the Cricks Empire now lies. So he took over this island, summoned a bunch of assholes, and created his own nation, because he didn't like the way things were going. And so now he's like a dragon lord, like an undead dragon lord guy. And nobody likes the Cricks. Nobody at all, really, to be honest. Everybody is at war with the Cricks. Mercenaries in the game will work for them, because you have rules that say which mercenaries can work for which factions. So they will work for Cricks, but I honestly don't know the fluff behind it. It's like, do Cricks just not care about some forms of life? Is it all forms of life? Do you even know? Can you tell me what it is? Illusions, Mr. Anderson. Sorry. Cricks are kind of cool because a lot of the rules revolve around them being pretty hard to kill, because obviously they're undead. That leads for some really fun gameplay mechanics, because, I mean, an army that doesn't die very easily is pretty tricky, as you can imagine, to deal with. Now, the fun part about it is they can raise themselves from the dead and things like that, so a lot of the rules will reflect that in their army book. Okay. You can see the definition starting to appear. Let me stretch my back and shit. Okay. You can see the definition starting to appear. So you got this insignia in the middle here. You have these large shoulder bolts, and you have these vents and all these things starting to pop out now. Ooh, I keep kicking my table. And that all comes from starting with the color that covers the most on the model. Obviously, it's known as a base coat. Now, that helps you identify, as opposed to starting with some other color on the model, that helps you identify small details and places where you're going to want to pay the most attention. Try to get this into the frame here. Yeah, this is going quite smoothly. I like how this paints. It's really fun. And this is indeed where the fun aspect comes into play. The most fun that I have is painting a model and looking at it after it's done. And my fun scale is graded on how nice it looks and how fun it is to paint all together. So this is actually kind of entertaining, to be honest. So most of this blue is covered a couple more places. Usually you would go over everything twice, which is what I'm starting to do, actually, to be honest. Anything that you can see visibly black coming through, and that's what the base coat, or that's what the primer coat's for. Anything you can see black coming through, you smack over it just once or twice again. And you don't have to use as much paint the second time around. Excuse me. Real easy stuff, guys. And you're seeing this brush that I'm using? $3 at Walmart, something like that. So there's not a lot of money put into this. Matter of fact, let's go into that for just a quick second while we're on this topic. Total overall. Okay, here's what we got. Turn the autofocus back on. Here's what we got. We got a model. We have a set of purple paintbrushes from Walmart that are god-awful. So we'll put those there, I guess. We have paint. Call it Cygnar. So you're going to paint Cygnar. You're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least 6 paints. So we got these 6 paints that are lined up over here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 6th one's over here, brown. This is all you need to paint. I also have this cup. Plastic cup with some water in it. Water's pretty cheap. This is all you need, including glue. That will cost you about $1 a piece for these. No, it's like less. It's like 60 cents per piece. So you got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 60. And then you got glue. Glue is a little bit expensive. This is about $3. If you want to get this type of glue, you want to get $3 or $4 with this. Brushes are about $3. $4 for a variety pack variety pack. Then your model. This model was 13 bucks. Plus tax and shipping, it was like 14, 15 bucks. Not very expensive at all. So if you're going to count all this stuff up together, it'll probably take you about $30 to get into this hobby and get your first model. That being said, after you get your first one, they have huge expansion boxes. You can get a box with 5 models, 4 models, and that's only about 30 bucks by itself. So you could grab one model and a starter box for 40 bucks, and you have an army to play this game. Now, War Machine is a skirmish game, so you don't need tons of models. It is a tabletop, more than just a battle game. It's kind of slipping towards the RPG section. It's a little bit easier to play than an RPG, but it's got more statistics than, say, a regular tabletop game. Very easy to learn, very easy to jump into. So if you're curious about how much this is to get into, I have just educated you. Now, we're going to switch colors to a silver, and we'll cover that in part 2. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Cheers.